What if saying "I do" after 60 meant saying goodbye to benefits you've counted on your whole life? It's something most people don't think about until it's too late, but the financial landscape shifts dramatically when you remarry later in life. I've seen it firsthand with many of my clients who walked into a second marriage expecting emotional renewal, only to find themselves blindsided by financial surprises. Remarrying can have unintended consequences on your retirement savings, social security benefits, pensions, and even your estate plans. For example, did you know that saying yes to a new partner could mean losing social security benefits you were receiving from a late spouse or even an ex? It's true, and it happens more often than you'd think. Your financial picture isn't just your own anymore. You're merging lives, but also liabilities, responsibilities, and in some cases, debts. If you have children from a previous marriage, things get even more complicated. Without clear planning, assets you hope to leave your children could legally end up in the hands of your new spouse. That's why I always urge people, before you walk down the aisle again, sit down with a financial advisor or elder law attorney. This isn't about distrust. It's about clarity, security, and protecting the legacy you've worked your whole life to build. Because love in your 60s is beautiful, but it should never come at the cost of your future stability. You might think it's just the two of you getting married, but in reality, it's a whole family affair. At this stage in life, love rarely comes without a few strings attached. When you remarry after 60, you're not just blending two hearts, you're blending two families, each with their own history, emotions, and expectations. And trust me, that can be a delicate dance. Your adult children may have strong feelings, concern, confusion, maybe even resentment. They might worry about your finances, your well-being, or feel protective over the memory of your late spouse. It's not always about disapproval. Sometimes it's simply fear of change or fear of being replaced. I've seen situations where grown children start questioning your decisions, wondering if your new partner is truly here for you or for what you bring to the table. These aren't easy conversations, but they're necessary. That's why open communication is key. Sit down with your family, share your hopes, your reasons, your heart. And just as importantly, listen. Hear their fears without judgment, because when they feel seen and heard, they're far more likely to support your happiness. In the end, remarriage at this stage isn't just about starting a new chapter. It's about helping everyone around you feel like they still belong in the story. What if love after 60 isn't about starting over, but about starting fresh, with everything you've learned along the way? At this stage in life, emotional needs shift. You're not building a life from scratch like in your 20s. You're merging two full, complex lives. And that's beautiful, but it's also challenging. I've seen so many people go into a new marriage later in life with expectations rooted in who they were decades ago, only to feel blindsided when things don't feel the same. You have your routines, your own ways of doing things. So does your partner. Blending those worlds requires patience, not just affection. It's not just about companionship. It's about navigating independence and intimacy at the same time. That balance is delicate. I often ask my clients, are you looking for someone to complete your life or someone to complement it? Because the answer matters. At 60, love isn't about saving each other. It's about seeing and accepting each other, fully, flaws and all. If you enter with clarity and compassion for yourself and your partner, this chapter can be one of the most emotionally fulfilling of your entire life. But it starts with resetting expectations and being real about what you're truly ready to give and receive. What if saying "I do" in your 60s accidentally rewrote your entire legacy without you even knowing it? Most people don't realize this, but getting married later in life isn't just a romantic decision. It's a legal contract that can change everything. I've worked with countless older adults who were shocked to learn that, after remarriage, their estate plan no longer worked the way they thought it would. Without the proper documents in place, the house you plan to leave to your children, it could end up belonging to your new spouse. Your healthcare decisions, someone else might have more legal power than your own family. Here's the truth. Remarriage can affect wills, power of attorney, medical directives, and inheritance laws in ways most people never expect. And it's not about not trusting your partner, it's about protecting the people you love and the life you've built. That's why I always urge my clients to revisit everything legally binding before walking down the aisle again. Draft a clear will, create or update your healthcare proxy. And yes, in many cases, a prenuptial agreement isn't unromantic. It's just responsible. It sets clear expectations and avoids messy, painful disputes down the line. Love is beautiful, especially later in life. But without legal clarity, it can also leave behind confusion, conflict, and regret. So if you're thinking of remarrying, do yourself and your family a favor. Make the legal part just as intentional as the emotional part. What if I told you that chasing happiness after 60 requires a completely different map than the one we used in our younger years? In my experience working with older adults, I've seen a powerful shift. Happiness in later life is no longer about building, achieving, or proving. It becomes about preserving, enjoying, savoring. It's not about seeking fireworks. It's about feeling peace when you sip your morning coffee or laugh with someone who really sees you. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make when remarrying at this stage is expecting that a new partner will fix their loneliness or reignite a sense of purpose they've lost touch with. But the truth? If you're not already content with who you are alone, no relationship, no matter how loving, can fill that void. At this age, both people usually bring deeply rooted routines, preferences, and even stubborn habits. You might love your quiet mornings, while they enjoy lively breakfast conversations. You may crave travel, while they're more grounded. These differences don't mean incompatibility. They mean you both have to redefine what happiness looks like together, not just individually. Before saying, "I do" again, ask yourself, am I happy as I am? Or am I hoping someone else will complete the picture for me? Because true joy in this season of life doesn't come from addition. It comes from alignment. Before you say, "I do" again, let me leave you with one truth no one really talks about. But it could shape the rest of your life. At this stage in life, love can feel like a second chance, a beautiful surprise. But before stepping into marriage again, take a moment to truly reflect. As someone who's worked with many older adults navigating this path, I've seen how powerful it can be when couples pause. Not out of fear, but out of deep respect for themselves and each other. Marriage after 60 isn't just a romantic gesture. It's a life decision that touches your heart, your family, your finances, and even your legacy. That's why it's not just okay to take your time. It's necessary. Talk things through. Get professional advice. Make sure you're not just falling in love, but also building something solid, something that honors who you've become. You deserve a love that uplifts, not complicates. And that only happens when we approach it with open eyes and open hearts.